So for a period of time, you worked in a rehab center in the Campos that primarily serves people from an old colony background. Was that 2014? When was that?
Yep.
Yeah.
I think, yeah.
Yeah.
2013 or 2014.
Yeah. So talk a little bit about the history of the rehab center and then your experiences there working at the rehab center.
Yeah, I think it actually started an old colony preacher, Altista, Froese. Saw the need that alcoholism and drugs were quite a problem and actually needed to do something, and he worked together with some of these other preachers. So I think that was a good thing there with from different denominations and actually somebody from the old colony and then working on this. And he donated the land, and I think at first the idea was to make it also for the Spanish or for Mexicans, and they tried that and were not able to make it work. And part of that was just the language, like they couldn't really get the workers enough dicha. I mean, most dicha do speak Spanish, but not enough dicha that would actually understand or get the differences and be able to address that. And most Spanish don't learn German, so that didn't work out. But by the time I was there, it was already. I think even that first year that they realized that no, we're just going to keep it beach.
Yeah. And about what year did it open, more or less?
Was it in the early 2000s?
Early 2000s.
Yeah, I wish I knew that date, but it has been open now about 15 years. And then at first it was just for men.
Yeah.
And later opened for the women as well. And now, I mean, they do keep them separate. And if they really want, if there's an issue, especially, usually people that end up there have marriage problems, or it is a problem, their marriages are broken because whatever. And even if the man is the one with the alcoholism or whatever it is, they do want the wife to come as well. Or they encourage it and try to do it that way to where they can get them together and counsel and things like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, by the time I was there, it was separate like that. And then just for the evening services, they would have them. Or just for church, they would have them all in one room. But still kept them separate.
Yeah.
And do you also ask about how my time there was?
Yeah. What were your experiences like working there?
Yeah, definitely a lot of old school ways of thinking that people that come in there. A lot of these things where. With the men, like, oh, I'm the man and I got in, and that's, I think, where a lot of problems are. Like, gotta be the man, gotta make sure to show it, things like that. And so, but they also, I mean, I think they've come a long way with the rehab. Like, I had suggestions there, and some of them were taken about being more therapeutic. And, some of it is, in my view, too old school, as far as they're still, in a sense, not so much. I mean, but there are still some things where it's kind of this idea, oh, we've got to shame them. Like, which I find amusing, and I don't think it's overdone. Like the men doing their own laundry, of course, that's great. But not only that, they don't get a washer, like they have to hand wash it.
Oh, yeah.
But I don't think it's extreme. I think that's very amusing. It's That's fine. That's not over the top. But there are some other things where it's like, where the idea, or it's thought that the idea is that they have to make it harsh. But it isn't. At that, considering what some of these other rehabs in the area are, it's not harsh.
Yeah.
Because they get good food and things like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think it's good. I think they've come a long way, and I think there's more
Yeah.
to do in terms of being therapeutic or whatever. Like, not just let's try to make these people miserable so they can see their need. I don't know.
Yeah. And about how many people can they serve at a time?
On the men's side, if they have 30, 40 I think is full. 40 is full, and it was always kind of filling up. But every 3 months they get out, and so it kind of works. But the women's side was usually not as full. And yeah, so in total it might be 50, and then there if you both sides together.
Yeah.
Then they're full.
Yeah. And what did kind of like a daily life kind of look like? What did a normal day at the center look like?
In the morning they would have their classes, and they were usually modeled or based on the 12 steps. And then in the afternoon they would have activities, or for some of those, not at first when they came in. And I guess on the women's side, I was only involved there. Like, I would bring some classes and I would only go there to do that. I didn't notice as much as what they did, but I think usually they did some sewing, things like that. Yeah. And on the men's side, they'd go into the workshop. But some of them would stay back and either do Bible studies, or they would just have their own time to read and study like that. Yeah. But one of the things, one of my suggestions there was to do something for health or workout, and then they're like, "Oh, you're the guy that could lead that." So I enjoyed that, but also regretted it, because it's like, oh dang, because there's not this. Especially in the old school, their exercise and workout, like
it's this completely foreign thing. Like what? Yeah. And then especially the older men, but even some of the younger men, like, you won't see me doing jumping jacks. Yeah. I feel so silly. Yeah, for sure.
So sometimes it was fun. Like, it was funny the way the men reacted or the things they said. Like, seriously. But it was a challenge for me, but it was good.
Yeah.
But there was jogging. Some of them actually just downright refused. Like, they wouldn't even jog. Yeah. Nope. Wabla school. I'm just gonna walk. Like, that was completely why would I run?
Yeah. No, exactly. Yeah. And so during your time there, I'm sure you had a lot of different experiences, a lot of people coming in with a lot of difficult issues with addiction, issues with different stuff. In your opinion, what are some things that can be done to address substance abuse and its impact on individuals and families here in the campus?
I think definitely, it's not always the case, but I think definitely start with the youth, or like that's been kind of neglected, where it's just, there's this idea of, it's just or that is, especially in the old colony, not just the old colony, but the traditional, where even in these cut-off communities like Copeline, it's very much the idea is that just let them do that. And then there has been, now it's changing in this area. I heard just recently, I need to inquire more about that, but I heard just recently that even the old colony has now built a gym in some areas. Yeah. And that to me is huge. But it was even 15 years ago. Well, no, it's now 20 years ago, but even in Seminole, Texas, like, there was this brief time where we went to the old colony, and I remember sitting there in church, and they usually have their sermons by a book, like sermons that were written over 100 years ago. They're still going. They still go pretty much read those, but at the end they'll have a rant about either the way people dress, or back then it was about baseball. Like, oh, the kids are playing baseball, I don't think, and so that's changed in Seminole, but I think it's changing here too. I think it's changing, slowly trickling, changing. But I think that would help a lot to have alternatives for the youth activities, because where it's not tolerated, you know, parents leave their DARP or their village and they're passing their kids with a group of kids just parked beside the road, and they've got their trunk open, they're mixing their drinks. Like, that should be unacceptable. Or it should be that any parent in that DARP should be able to say to this group, hey, you guys, if this is going to happen, it's got to happen somewhere safe, at least, at the very least. But even that, it shouldn't be accepted, tolerated. I get it that you kind of, you let, like, you can't control it that much.
But like younger kids, like younger teenagers even, like you'll see out on
Oh yeah, 12, 13, and they're driving.
Yeah.
So I think a lot could be prevented, and a lot of those kids grow up that way, and then whenever they do get baptized, they stop whatever it is they think they should stop for their baptism classes until they're baptized, and then it kind of continues, and then it turns into a disaster in marriages and homes and